Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive.
Hmm.
We love to take these personality combos and really break them down.
Hmm.
And today we're looking at a combo that is all about intensity and strategy. We are talking about the Scorpio snake.
Ooh.
So we've got this article titled Scorpio Snake, the Enigmatic Strategist Zodiac Fusion. And I'm really curious to see what we find.
Yeah, this is a good one. I think, you're talking about bringing together the emotional depths of a Scorpio with that strategic wisdom of a snake.
Yeah.
And it's not just like adding these two together. It's like, how do those energies actually like work together
Yeah.
and intertwine?
It's interesting you say that because when I was kind of thinking about this combo beforehand, who popped into my head?
Mm.
Grace Kelly.
Oh, wow.
Like, she was someone who navigated
Right.
Hollywood,
Yeah.
royalty, like two completely different worlds,
Yeah.
but with this like incredible grace and this like strategic savvy,
Hold on.
would you say that's kind of an example of how this energy kind of plays out?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that blend of charisma and strategic thinking is a hallmark, I would say, of the Scorpio snake.
Right.
They're not just charming, but they use it to their advantage.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, they're not just like charming to be charming.
Right.
They've got an end goal.
Yeah, they're not just going to like smile at you and walk away like they need something.
Right, exactly. And the article even describes them as having like this unwavering commitment
Mm-hmm.
to their goals.
Right.
They're not just dreamers, they're like the doers.
Yeah, they're going to get it done.
Yeah.
Whatever it is. And they approach everything in life with that same level of purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Think about a Scorpio snake pitching a business idea.
Okay.
They're not just going to take no for an answer. They're going to analyze that feedback. They're going to refine their approach. And then they're going to come back even stronger.
Hmm.
So they're not afraid of setbacks either.
Right.
They see them as challenges to be overcome.
So it's not like brute force ambition.
Hmm.
It sounds like there's this undercurrent of like emotional depth
Right.
that kind of fuels that drive.
Yeah, it's that Scorpio influence coming through.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
they're not just going through the motions. They're driven by this deep desire to like live authentically and pursue what truly matters to them.
Okay, so that makes sense. But how does that actually how does that play out in their like everyday behaviors and emotions?
Mm.
Are they like constantly strategizing every single move?
Yeah.
Or is there like a softer side to them?
This is where it gets really interesting because their strategic thinking doesn't necessarily make them cold or calculating.
Okay.
Remember, they're also influenced by that water element,
Right.
which is all about, feelings and intuition.
Right. Because water can be both like powerful and adaptable, right?
Exactly.
Like a tidal wave.
Yes.
Or like a gentle stream.
Totally.
So how does that water energy manifest in a Scorpio snake?
I think of it this way. Their emotions run really deep, and that intensity fuels their, passions and loyalties.
Mm-hmm.
They may not always wear their heart on their sleeve,
Right.
but their feelings are a powerful driving force in their lives.
Okay, so we've got this like really complex picture starting to emerge, right?
Mm-hmm.
This strategic mind, this like deep well of emotion, and a drive for like excellence.
Yeah.
It sounds like a recipe for success,
Yeah.
but are there any like potential downsides?
Well, like any strength, their intensity can have a shadow side.
Mm-hmm.
Their sharp minds can make them overly critical, both of themselves and others, and that unwavering focus on their goals might sometimes lead them to prioritize ambition above their own, personal needs.
Right, like even the most driven personalities need to find that balance.
Absolutely.
Have you ever noticed that in your own life?
Oh, yeah.
Like that struggle to balance like the ambition and then also taking care of yourself.
It's a constant balancing act.
Yeah.
And for someone like the Scorpio snake with their intense focus, it can be especially challenging.
Okay, so we've got this like incredibly driven, emotionally complex individual, but how do they actually like communicate with the world? Are they like fiery and outspoken?
Yeah.
Or are they more like calculated and reserved?
Yeah.
If I'm picturing like a Scorpio snake in a boardroom,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not seeing someone who's like pounding their fists on the table.
Right.
I'm sensing more like quiet intensity.
You're spot on. Their communication style is very much in line with their overall personality.
Okay.
Strategically, purposeful, and often quite charismatic.
Mm.
They don't waste words.
Right. So they're not just talking to hear themselves talk.
Right.
Every word has a purpose.
Precisely. And it goes back to that snake influence.
Okay.
You know, snakes are known for being so incredibly observant and deliberate in their actions. And that extends to how they communicate as well.
Right.
They think before they speak, choosing their words carefully to achieve, that desired effect.
That makes me think of like politicians. You know, do you think there's a certain type of politician that kind of embodies that Scorpio snake energy?
Well, it's interesting you say that because the article actually highlights a few famous Scorpio snakes.
Okay.
And one of them is a politician, Andrés Manuel López Obrador,
Okay.
the current president of Mexico.
Wow.
He's known for his strategic political maneuvering and his ability to connect with people on an emotional level.
Okay. Yeah, that totally fits the profile.
Right.
So we've talked about their communication style, but what about the things that like actually motivate them? What do they get excited about? What do they try to avoid?
Well, let's start with what makes them tick.
Okay.
They're drawn to intellectual challenges, anything that allows them to like flex their strategic muscles. Problem-solving skills, and of course, setting and achieving goals is a huge motivator for them.
Makes sense. It goes back to that drive for excellence.
Exactly. They're constantly striving for personal growth. Remember, this isn't about ego or superficial achievements. It's about constantly learning, evolving, and becoming like the best version of themselves.
Right.
They also appreciate recognition for their efforts, which is understandable given their dedication and hard work.
Right. It's not about like needing validation.
Right.
It's about just being acknowledged
Exactly.
for all that effort.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, I imagine they're not too fond of setbacks or anything that like hinders their progress.
Naturally, they don't enjoy setbacks, but they don't let them derail them either.
Right.
They see them as challenges to be overcome, opportunities to learn and adapt.
Right.
And remember, their element is water.
Mm-hmm.
So they have that adaptability, and they can navigate, changing circumstances with a certain fluidity.
So resilience is a big part of this personality.
Oh, absolutely.
Like they might stumble, but they're always going to find a way to get back up and keep moving forward.
Yeah.
It's interesting to think about what that looks like in different areas of their lives, like their relationships with friends, family, romantic partners.
Absolutely. Let's dive into that.
Okay.
When it comes to friendships, Scorpio snakes are described as charismatic and supportive,
Okay.
but they're also looking for like depth and substance. They're not just looking for casual acquaintances. They want connections with people who challenge them intellectually and inspire them to grow.
So they're looking for friends that are kind of on a similar wavelength.
Totally.
Who share that same drive
Yes.
for development.
Precisely think about a Scorpio snake hanging out with a Gemini,
Okay.
represented by the monkey in the Chinese Zodiac. That Gemini energy is so quick-witted and adaptable,
Right.
which keeps the Scorpio snake engaged and stimulated.
Yeah.
And the monkey's resourcefulness aligns perfectly with the Scorpio snake's strategic thinking. They can bounce ideas off each other and come up with some truly innovative solutions.
I love that image. Now, when it comes to romantic relationships, I imagine they're looking for someone who can kind of match their intensity.
They definitely need a partner who understands and appreciates their ambition.
Okay.
Someone who's not intimidated by their drive, but rather sees it as a strength.
Right. So someone who can be their rock and their cheerleader at the same time.
Exactly. Emotional depth is crucial. The article mentions a strong pairing with Cancer,
Okay.
represented by the ox in the Chinese Zodiac. Cancers bring that deep well of emotion that resonates with the Scorpio snake.
Right.
And the ox provides a grounded stability that complements the Scorpio snake's more driven nature.
So it's like that perfect blend of like fire and water,
Exact.
passion and stability. So we've covered friendships and romance, but what about their professional lives? How do Scorpio snakes approach their careers? Well, we've talked about how driven and ambitious they are. So I'm guessing they're not content just to like, clock in and clock out.
Definitely not. Remember those leadership qualities we discussed earlier? Scorpio snakes are often drawn to roles where they can kind of, take charge, organize, and inspire others.
Yeah.
They have a natural ability to set goals and see them through, which makes them, valuable assets in any professional setting.
It's like they have that built-in roadmap to success. Like they see the big picture.
Yeah.
They know how to rally people.
Totally. The article mentions a particularly interesting pairing for career success.
Okay.
Scorpio snake with a Capricorn represented by the dragon in the Chinese Zodiac. So that grounded practicality of the Capricorn really helps to channel the Scorpio snake's ambitions.
Yeah.
And then the dragon's charisma, adds this layer of dynamism and leadership.
So it's like an unstoppable force.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground. Personality, behaviors, communication, relationships, even career paths.
Right.
But the article also mentions like lucky numbers, colors, gemstones, all that fun stuff.
Yes. Can you tell us more about that?
Let's dive into that symbolic world.
Okay.
Their lucky numbers are 3, 7, and 11.
Okay.
Now, instead of just seeing these as random numbers, think about what they represent. The number 3 is often associated with communication and creativity.
Okay.
Which aligns perfectly with the Scorpio snake's charisma and strategic thinking.
I love how even just like a simple number can actually say so much about a personality type.
Exactly.
What about lucky colors?
Deep red and black.
Okay.
Red, often associated with passion and intensity, makes total sense with that fiery Scorpio energy. And black, representing mystery and power, speaks to their strategic depths and charisma.
Bold choices for a bold personality. Now, what about gemstones? Are there any that resonate with the Scorpio snake?
The article mentions garnet and topaz.
Okay.
Garnet is often associated with personal power and transformation, fitting for someone who's constantly striving for growth.
Right.
And topaz symbolizes wisdom and clarity,
reflecting this Scorpio snake's, strategic mind and intuitive insights.
It's fascinating how all these elements come together to paint such a vibrant picture of this personality type. But I have to ask, we talked about their Western zodiac sign, their Chinese zodiac animal.
Yeah.
But what about their element in ruling planets?
Yeah.
How do those factors play into it?
So that's where it gets even more multi-layered.
Right.
As we've already mentioned, their Western element is water, symbolizing their emotional depth, intuition, and adaptability.
It's interesting to think about how that water energy might manifest differently in a Scorpio snake compared to, let's say, a Pisces.
Totally.
Yeah.
Now, for ruling planets, we have a really fascinating combination.
Okay.
Scorpio is ruled by Mars, the planet of action, energy, and determination.
Okay, that totally explains that drive, that go-getter attitude. Yeah.
And the snake is ruled by Venus, the planet of love, beauty, and relationships.
So that's where that softer side comes in.
Exactly.
So they're not all about just conquering the world.
Right.
They also value that harmony and connection.
That's what makes them so complex and intriguing.
Okay, before we wrap things up, I have to ask about compatibility. We've talked about some strong pairings.
Right.
But are there any zodiac signs that maybe clash with the Scorpio snake energy?
The article does mention a few potentially challenging matches. For example, an Aries, symbolized by the horse in the Chinese zodiac, might clash with the Scorpio snake's more strategic approach.
Okay.
Aries are known for being impulsive and independent, while horses crave freedom and might resist the Scorpio snake's desire for deep connection.
So too much independence on both sides.
Exactly. Could lead to some friction.
Right.
Another potentially tricky pairing is Sagittarius,
Okay.
represented by the rabbit with the Scorpio snake.
Okay.
Sagittarians are all about adventure and expanding their horizons, while rabbits prefer a more diplomatic and harmonious approach. So this could contrast with the Scorpio snake's more focused and goal-oriented nature.
It sounds like they might have a little trouble finding that common ground.
It's not about saying these relationships are impossible.
Right.
It's just about recognizing, potential areas where communication and understanding are going to be extra important.
Right. So for our listeners out there who've been diving deep with us into the world of the Scorpio snake, what are some key takeaways?
Remember that Scorpio snakes are driven by this deep desire for authenticity and excellence. They value meaningful connections, strategic thinking, and personal growth.
Right.
So if you want to build a strong relationship with a Scorpio snake, whether it's a friendship, romance, or a business partnership, approach them with respect, honesty, and an open mind.
But don't be afraid to engage in those deep, thought-provoking conversations.
Exactly. Scorpio snakes thrive on intellectual stimulation and emotional depth.
This has been such an incredible deep dive. I feel like we've explored the Scorpio snake personality from like every angle.
I think so.
Their strengths, their challenges, their motivations.
We covered it all.
Their relationships.
Yes.
Their lucky numbers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
it's been a fascinating journey.
it really has.
And I hope our listener feels equipped to understand and interact with the Scorpio snakes in their own lives.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on this exploration, and we'll see you next time
Yes.
for another deep dive into the fascinating world of personality and astrology.